I'm Adrian, and I'm 12 years old. My favorite thing about sheep is that they can have very different personalities. What's your name?
Morgan Baker.
How old are you?
3,
4.
4.
What do you like most about sheep?
What do you like most about the sheep?
Morgan, what do you like most about the sheep?
Showing the little lambs.
The little lambs, okay.
Showing the little lambs.
Oh, nice. All right, and then over here we have, what's your name?
I'm on a banker and
How old are you?
6. What's your favorite part about sheep?
What?
Well, that they're so fluffy.
That they're fluffy? I agree, very fluffy. And yourself?
My name is Laura. I am 10 years old, and my favorite part about sheep is
Absolutely everything.
Absolutely everything is an absolutely great answer. Perfect. Okay, and in the middle, let's talk to these two folks here.
So my name's Alex Baker, and I'm 37.
And
And I'm Amy Baker, and I'm 35.
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a dairy farm in Eastern Ontario, and that was my introduction to agriculture, and I thought I would do that forever, and here I am in Alberta with sheep.
far away.
Yeah.
And how about you, Amy?
I grew up with horses, and the horse industry brought us to Alberta, and here we are with our sheep farm.
So,
No.
No. My grandparents had sheep to graze apple orchards in Eastern Ontario, and so I grew up around sheep, but never, and I liked sheep, but never thought about being a sheep farmer. The biggest thing about getting into sheep farming, any agriculture is a barrier to entry. It's expensive to buy land, it's expensive to buy infrastructure, it's expensive to buy livestock, and then you gotta have the capital to operate, like a lot of businesses. But the challenge of settling in, there's a learning curve. I spent a lot of time in the cattle industry, both dairy and beef, and they are not little cows. That's the hardest thing I had to learn. They don't eat like little cows, they don't behave like little cows. So there was a learning curve there for me to switch over from cattle to sheep.
Probably our first lambing experience was a bit of a low moment. We had a lot of issues that came up, and it was really interesting. It was quite a learning curve for sure, but I've come away from it knowing more and feeling more comfortable with lambing problems, and it was just so beyond my capacity last year to try and manage it all, and it was frustrating. And yeah, I feel like we've come through it and we've survived, and now we have the confidence to move forward and hopefully excel.
We took advantages of a market that existed overseas to sell our wool, and it became easy. And now that market's disappeared, the pricing of it has disappeared. Manufacturing's become a challenge overseas. So the industry's atrophied. For the last 20 to 30, you can even push into 40 years, the demand on natural fibers has been very low. And so it's going to be a slow process to change. There's a couple organizations in Canada, Fiber Sheds, the Campaign for Wool Canada, that are currently trying to change that, and I wish them the best. I hope they can change perception of Canadian wool and bring processing and use of Canadian wool back to this country. I'm cautiously optimistic of that. We've gotten so used to not caring in a way about wool, which is a shame, because it's a great product, and it's going to be a very difficult industry to change in Canada. And then we were in the process of looking for a shearer, and Amy found a beginner shearing school in Lethbridge, taught by a person who became my mentor. and is still my mentor today, and I shear with him 90% of the time.
Oh,
It was a learning curve.
curve.
It was so the first year. So the first beginner's course was a 2-day course. I was pretty confident leaving the course. Come home. It took me 3 days to shear our ewes. I think the first sheet, we have it on video somewhere, took me like 12 to 15 minutes, and it wasn't
pretty.
graceful or pretty at all. You know, full staples of wool left on her, and you know, and so I did not take to it well, but I found it very intriguing and demanding physically and mentally, and so I went back the following year, did another beginner's school, and Sean at that time said to me after we went to have dinner, Amy and I went to have dinner with him and his wife at his house during the school, and he said, well, if you're here, you might as well learn how to do it and go on the road. And so that same year, he ended up taking me, we call it a run, which is a shearing trip. We went to central Saskatchewan, and I shore some sheep to this day that are still big and heavy. And by the 5th day, we were shearing a Hutterite colony on the way home, just on the Alberta-Saskatchewan border. And I think I shored 20 sheep that day and had to leave the other shearer I was with to shear the other 110. So it's been a learning curve. This is my 2nd season doing it full time, where I do nothing else. So the Canadian shearing industry is very difficult. The 3 of us that travel together, we probably shear 100 to 115,000 ewes in a season, the 3 of us combined, which is probably more than any group of shearers in the country. So the answer to that is we have a great trainer that's come to us for the last 6 years from Australia, and to train us, and he's also provided quite a few opportunities for shearers to go to Australia to learn. So last year I did 27,000 ewes and 1,800 alpacas and llamas. So the biggest thing really is the time driving is the hardest thing on you. Like sitting for, you know, if we're driving to eastern Saskatchewan from here, like it's 12 hours one way. And usually we try to spend a few days out there and we try to make that trip, but sometimes not always. We cover a lot of country shearing. I shear with 2 other shearers 90% of the time. Last year I spent 173 nights in hotels away from home, and probably another 60 days or 70 days where I shore but came home at night. So there's a lot of days I'm not here. That's one of the reasons we chose sheep. Because Amy can manage them on her own, as we're like Amy trying to deal with a 1,400 pound beef cow on her own with 4 kids when I'm not here is a physical challenge, which turns into a mental challenge. Yeah. Physically, there's things that we deal with. I've got a really strong relationship with an osteopath here in Cochrane. I see her as needed, sometimes once a week, sometimes once a month. It just depends. A lot of problems with my shoulders, my diaphragm, and hips. A lot of people think it's a back problem, but the back problem is actually caused by hip flexors, so that's an issue. Time away from home is a big thing. There's a lot of days I'm away from home, so I miss a lot of things with Amy and the kids. So, you know, I don't get to see a lot of those things, swim lessons, sports, 4-H. I have gotten better at managing that. I feel bad for Amy sometimes when she has to deal with those things, but I've been in agriculture my whole life and I've dealt with those things from a young age, and so now she's learning those things. And to be honest, over the last 18 months that we've been lambing in this intensive system, Amy's come through that with a lot of knowledge, and especially this last lambing here in December, a lot of confidence started to come through, and she knew that she knew how to handle things, whether that was pulling a breech lamb, which is a lamb that doesn't present well coming out of the birth canal, or a lamb that's hypothermic or malnutritioned when it's born. And so it's difficult, but at the same time, Amy's getting to a point now where she can handle those things, 95% of things, and it just makes me pretty proud that she's gotten that far in the short term lambing intensive sheep like she has.
It's a fairly significant challenge. So we homeschool the kids, and we're really active in our 4-H club. And managing the farm on top of that is a challenge. I mean, we have grandma who lives with us, or we live with her, we cohabitate, and that's a life savings because she kind of helps me with some house stuff while I'm out here, and we make it work, right? I think that we found our flow finally, and that took a bit of time to manage and work out the kinks. But yeah.
So
We like the idea of a mixed farm, and it's more mentally stimulating, to be honest. You're not just stuck in this monotony of just raising sheep. As much as we love sheep, but you know, we put up a little bit. We put up hay. We buy all of our grain and straw from a neighbor farm about 15 kilometers away, and most of our lamb is sold and consumed locally. Same with our pigs. Our chickens are just egg layers right now. We'll probably end up running some broilers this summer for meat, but we find it more sustainable, both mentally, environmentally, and financially, to have our eggs, our proverbial eggs, spread across more baskets.
When everything goes right, or according to plan, that is like the best day. It's really awesome to have learning experiences and opportunities present themselves, but it's equally just as amazing when you can count on things going to plan efficiently. It's a lot of work. It's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of passion behind every ounce of wool that comes across the table. From the people who raise it to the people who are raising the feed for them, and the ones who end up processing it or shearing it off the sheep. It's a labor of love, and that's all it is, wrapped up in a tiny bow.
Is that it takes a lot of work and commitment to get to a point where shearers can be proficient both in quality and in quantity. Like my teachers have been very focused on the quality aspect of the way we handle sheep. We spend a lot of time working on that quality before we really encourage shearers to try to be fast. For us, it's more about the animal husbandry, and our customers we call them producers. Our producers become our friends, they're our neighbors. We care about the outcome of their business, and you know, we care about them like an extended family. So for me, shearing's more about helping sheep producers and helping the sheep and wool industry move forward. I would like to see large-scale processing return to Canada. I think that's the biggest bottleneck here. I think we have some great companies and innovators in Canada that want to use Canadian wool, but because it's not processed here and it leaves here, it usually doesn't come back. Usually we get foreign wool back, and so whether that's scouring, carding, spinning facilities, large scale. There's a lot of great artisans, processing facilities across Canada, but we lost all of our large scale processing. So I think that's what I'd like to see change, and that would make the biggest change over the next 5 years if we had those facilities in Canada. Would really instill some confidence in the wool industry.
Magic wand moments. Everybody wear wool.
yeah.
From your socks to your shirts to your hats. I think that if we had a little bit more enthusiasm for wool, and there's maybe a little bit more, accessible. Yeah.
The craziest thing I would like to see, I know there's a lot of fiber board products being made out of straw and chaff and things like that. I think it'd be really neat if we could find a way to make a economically possible wool fiber board for building materials.
Cool. Okay.
If you could have one thing made of wool that you had forever and ever, what would it be?
Socks or a sweater.
Socks or a sweater? Look at that. Looks like he's wearing his sweater. What about you? What would you like?
Sowing seed.
You
big sheep.
a big sheep, like one that you could keep in your room?
What would you like made out of wool, Morgan?
Straw.
Straw, yeah.
Okay, well that works
Betty.
too. What about you, honey?
Another sheep stuffy.
Another sheep stuffy. That's a good one.
I would like and we'll soak down stuffy.
You girls are working on a theme. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for all of your time. This has been great. The video has worked out really, really well. We got to play with my ring light, right, Morgan? And we will see you guys later. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.